So let's start our presentation right now. This is our parallel session room 2. We are having a panel which is called Gendered Conversations, New Voices, Fresh Perspectives. So what binds all these papers here today together is their attention to gender, and also what we have seen that the new authors, the fresh voices, they have been really attentive to this issue. Their works focus on that to a large extent. So we have four presenters here. I have already mentioned before, but right now the presenter who will be presenting her paper is working on a paper called a caged birds sing, a gendered reading of Nadia Hashmi's The Pearl That Broke Its Shell and When the Moon is Low. Apurna Brahmachari is from the University of Gorbongo, India. Apurna, would you please present your paper? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is my screen visible? Okay, so let me start from here.
Okay.
This is the title page, and the title of this presentation is The Caged Bird Sing, a gendered reading of Nadia Hashimi's The Pearl That Broke Its Shell and When the Moon is Low. So before delving into the details of this paper, let us take a look at the description of UNICEF about the condition of women and girls in Afghanistan. So this is a general description that I'm presenting through this slide. And they describe it like, so it's there, women and girls in Afghanistan continue to face widespread discrimination and human rights abuses. The country ranks among the least favorable on the Gender Inequality Index, and the literacy rate for the women is among the lowest in the world. Violence against women and girls is rife, and the majority don't go to school. So let's just come back to the paper and focus on how literature deals with the women issues. So literature has always remained one of the strongest mediums to express its concern regarding gender issues. The novels based in Afghanistan, particularly written in English as well as native languages, has always shed light on the precarious status of women in Afghanistan. So here, as I'm talking about Nadia Hashimi, my focus will be obviously on the diasporic writings from Afghan writers. So writers from Afghan diaspora have always voiced their concern regarding the horrors of war, ethnic conflicts, insurgency, forced migration, dislocation, and relocation, and many related issues. So we have all heard about Khalid Hosseini, Atiq Rahimi, Nadia Hashimi, and books like A Thousand Splendid Suns, The Patient Stone, When the Moon is Low are the fictional representations of the condition of women in Afghanistan. So basically, this is a picture of Nadia Hashimi, and this is a quote which is from Feminist Criticism in the Wilderness by Ellen Showalter. And this is what is the difference of women's writing. So let's focus on what is the specialty of Nadia Hashimi when we are talking about gender issues. So these are the works that she has authored till now. So before discussing anything else, let us look at the general description about Nadia Hashimi. So Nadia Hashimi was born and brought up in New York and New Jersey, but both her parents were Afghans who left the country prior to the Soviet invasion. She did her graduation from Brandeis University and went on to study medicine in Brooklyn, New York. She completed her pediatric residency training at NYU and Bellevue hospitals. Apart from a splendid academic career, she is a member of the US Afghan Women's Council. She equally contributes to the social work in Afghanistan. So this is a list of her works, and this includes these novels, The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, When the Moon is Low, one half from the east, a house without windows, the sky at our feet, and sparks like stars. And gender is a major thematic concern of her fiction. So this is what this presentation aims to argue, that this will take up two of Nadia Hashimi's fiction, The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, When the Moon is Low, to analyze the individuality of Afghan women surrounded by the obnoxious chain of place, power, and time. The individual position of the women will be, in turn, a critique of the society. These are the books: The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, which came out in 2014, and When the Moon is Low, which came out in 2015. So this is prior to anything, let us look at the concept of gender. What is gender? And this reminds us of the often quoted line from Simone de Beauvoir, one isn't born, but rather becomes a woman. Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary defines gender as the fact of being male or female, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural difference, not differences in biology. Feminists have always debated over this concept of gender. Probably the most famous one comes from Beauvoir, but many later feminists have equally expressed their views regarding sex and gender. So the concept of gender, here I'm quoting from a book by P.K. Nair. So I was discussing about the concept of gender, and I was quoting from a book by P.K. Nair, and there the lines are like this: sex is biological, but the values and meanings associated with the female and male body are socially ascribed. Gender is the system of values and meanings. So basically what feminist theory do is it sees gender as a system whereby meanings are attached to biological difference. So now come back to the novels of Nadia Hashimi that I have picked up to discuss this issue. And you will see that you'll find, if you read the novels, you see that Nadia Hashimi's sensitive portrayal of the issues of gender in both the novels, it finally show how women are surrounded by this repellent chain of place, power, and time. And a critical reading of the novels will shed light on the factors responsible for the condition. So this is the slide, and I've titled it Being Second. So this starts with basically gender is, when it comes to Afghanistan, gender has always remained a crucial marker of the social identity. So the tribal heteropatriarchy has always subjugated women, and the discussion of the pearl that broke its shell will show how women are marginalized by patriarchy. So let's focus on the theme of the novel. The novel is about two women who are from two different times, but who experience hardship in their society. Rahima and Shekiba, the two women, are there is also an interesting theme, and that is Bachaposh, and both Rahima and Shekiba are made Bachaposh, and they had to re-endure their femininity. So let's look at how gender is being portrayed in the novel. So basically, regarding Afghan society, we find that the division of the men's role and the women's role is very prominent. See how femininity is depicted is that the role of mother, daughter is natural. Like you will find that Shekiba, who works with her father, and after her father is dead, and she walks all alone in the field, and when she is spotted by one or two of her family members, they find that she's a disgrace to her family, just because she is doing all the works on her own, not only the household works, but also the works outside the household. And then there is another reference, and that Shekiba is the daughter son of her father, because she helps her father, and there are no one in the family, everyone dies in cholera. And then we will find that men are basically socially privileged. We'll have characters like Abdul Khalik and his brothers, who are socially privileged, and they have an upper hand in asking the hands of daughters usually regarding marriage. And then you will find the bachaposh, basically the system. It's a practice, it is widely practiced in parts of Pakistan and Afghanistan, where a girl is dressed as a boy. And there you will see that it is usually practiced when a family do not have any boy, and then the child is, and then the bachaposh is given the task of escorting the other girls to schools and some other places. So this reminds us of Judith Butler's concept of gender and performativity. We are reminded of the fact that how she has argued in that basically gender is not something which is socially constructed, but it's a role, it's a kind of a performance. It is repeated, and then like the dresses, like everything that it is practiced on a daily basis. And then this concept of gender gets a meaning, and it's only social in one way, because it is accepted by the society. How gender is practiced, it is accepted by the society. It's kind of a performance. So we find this concept when we read the representation of bachaposh through the characters of Rahima and Shekiba in the novel. Then we have our next slide, and there's another novel that I have referred to, and that is When the Moon is Low. There too you will find that the main characters like Feriba and Naziba, they at least they get the opportunity to go to school, but still they are being married off. And this and even the situation gets worse with the arrival of Taliban in the country. But the situations are slightly different when it comes to class, because we have two different women, Shekiba, and parallelly we have a reference to the real life character of Queen Soraya, who is absolutely privileged and is not as much marginalized as Shekiba is. So that is something I have said about the power which is operative in the society. And now it's the issue of time that I have argued in my abstract too, that the woman question in Afghanistan is also related to the issue of time. To discuss this, we have to look back on history, and there we will see that how women rights have been constantly pushed to margins. We know that it's only in 1964 that women were given the right to vote in Afghanistan, but since the Durrani kingdom, we find that the women were relegated to the margins. It's only since the time of King Amanullah that women were given certain rights, and things slightly developed in the kingdom of Muhammad Nadir Shah and Muhammad Zahir Shah, and also Nur Muhammad Taraki's governance. But overall, the picture is quite grim. The two novels that I have proposed to discuss reflect on this issue in a way that I'm giving example that this two characters, Rahima and Shekiba, they belong to two different times, but yet more or less things are same for them. But Rahima's situation is slightly different from the character of Fariba in When the Moon is Low. We find that Rahima is a girl who is being married off after the Taliban invades the country. And we find an interesting quote where Rahima says that things are not really changed for someone who is in the household. And she says that this is nothing different for her mother, who is doing her household works. This is no alarming call. Whereas For Fariba, who is the protagonist of When the Moon is Low, you find that when she is thinking about her own daughter, she is shuddered. She says that, I quote, I was learning that cause she says that she says that already I am ashamed to let Samira see what has become of me. I have had to cower under the stick of those turbanized tyrants while they stripped me of my career, my friends, my freedom to walk about. What future can there be for my daughter? So this is the situation which refers to the Taliban regime and see it and show how things are even worsening. Those slightly the slight rays of hope have been shown also in the kingdom of Amanullah when women emancipation is shown in the last sections of the novel The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, because the king is allowing freedom to women more and more. This is a fictional description. And then we will have the issue of place, which is also a significant issue that I have proposed to argue, and that's a gender discrimination and the question of place. So basically, this is an issue that demands attention because it's only the 22% of population of Afghanistan that lives in the urban place, but in the rural side, there's a 78% of the population. So basically, this place becomes very crucial when we are discussing the gender divisions and the subjugation of women, basically. So specifically, when I'm referring to Nadia Hashemi, I will attempt to show that how the urban place is slightly liberating, whereas the situation is more or less alike in the majority or in the say the to the in most of the Afghanistan. We see that Kabul in the last section of the novel The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, we see that women candidates are being allowed as parliamentarians. They are nominated as candidates and they are selected as parliamentarians, but despite that, these decisions that they make, they are not independent to make that. And it's the reflection of Rahima, who assists her sister-in-law Badriya, and she says that I was learning that cosmopolitan Kabul was, at least in that way, no different from my obscure village. Many of our decisions were not decisions at all. We were herded into our one choice or another. To put it gently, I wondered if the another women representatives truly free to make their own judgments. So basically, one character is interesting is that, and that is Zamarut Barakati. She is the only one who is arguing in the parliament, but she is not approved by any of the parliamentarians. So this is another one example. And another example is that how the literacy rate in Kabul is quite in favor of the gender equality. And you will see that the difference is being shown in the household of Mahmud and Fariba in When the Moon is Low. And then there is the household of Rahima and Abdul Khalik in The Pearl That Broke Its Shell. And you will find a sharp contrast in the fact that Mahmud and his family is not only allowing his wife Fariba to teach in school, but also their children are allowed to go. Their children are allowed to go to school, and this is only interrupted when the Taliban regime begins. But Rahima and her household is not as much liberal as we see in When the Moon is Low, because this is not Kabul. This is like this is a rural place where things are not that much in favor of women. So this is the issue of place that I've proposed to argue. And so basically one more slide is there, which is about the stories of resistance. Yes, the resistance is being shown in the way that these three women that I have referred to, that Rahima and Shekiba from the pearl that broke its shell, and Fariba finds their own way of escape. And Rahima finally escapes from her household in and she is finally dressed herself as a Vachaposh, and she leaves and she finally leaves, whereas Shekiba is finally settled, and her husband is not as much rude finally, whom she marries. And Fariba is, at least Fariba can escape the country, having the privileges, and she finally escapes her country, and she finally reaches England. And it's the way the resistance, or somewhere the ray of hope is shown in the novels. But as I'm arguing that the overall picture is very grim when it comes to the representation of gender, or basically the women. When it comes to the representation of women, I will like to refer to one more novel before ending my presentation, and it's the prequel of this novel, which actually came later in 2016. One Half from the East. It's a children's fiction, but it refers to the psychological complexes that usually when a girl is made a Vachaposh, and then she is made a boy and she has to perform like a boy, and what happens after she has to re-endure her femininity. And this is because the society that she belonged to doesn't approve a household without a boy, and that her family didn't have a boy child. It made her mother it somehow forced her mother to make her a Vachaposh. And I would like to end my slide with a quote from the chapter 57, and that shows that how women has to fit in somehow. It's the realization of Rahima in chapter 57 of The Pearl That Broke Its Shell. And she says that I was a little girl and then I wasn't. I was a Bachaposh and then I wasn't. I was a daughter and then I wasn't. I was a mother and then I wasn't. Just as so on as I could adjust, things change. It's just the concept of adjusting. Women has to adjust, and there comes the concept of individuality. We argue like the subject, the concept of the subject, like individuality, and the notion of subjectivity. And this is something that the feminists have argued since a long time, that they say that the concept of subjectivity is not as easy for women, because the roles that they play are basically socially constructed, and they have to somehow fit in. So there is no space for individuality. But the only rays of hope which I find, or I have proposed to show in the play, is that somehow only those who have the privilege, and it's the urban place basically, which somehow provides space for the women to find another hope for life. But it's not, as the things are not as much easier as in the rural places. So basically that's it from my presentation. I have proposed to show here how the issue of gender is basically the issue of gender oppression is linked to the question of power, place, and time. And I have referred to the novels and discussed it. And yeah, so thank you so much.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much, Aparna. It was a very perceptive reading of Nadia Hashmi's novels. Thank you so much for that. And let's just see whether we have any other presenters. I think not. If there are other presenters here, would you please let me know that you are here? Okay. Looks like looks like we don't have any other presentation here, which gives us more time, Aparna, to explore your work. Aparna, you were projecting at the beginning of your presentation, and we couldn't see a part of your projection. So, would you want to go back and project some of it so that we understand you better, the
Okay,
audience? Yeah.
okay, sure.
Since we have time, it's just totally up to
Okay,
you.
sure. Okay, so I start with the title slide first. So let's discuss about it. The Caged Bird Sing. Obviously, this is an allusion to Maya Angelou's famous autobiography. I know why
Hmm.
the caged bird sing, and I have referred this to. I have actually selected this title to show how this notion of cage. This is the cage is quite metaphorical when it comes to Afghanistan. Basically, this is a cage for the women. Some places you can find an escape, but more or less the situation is really grim. Specifically, I was referring, this is actually the Afghan literature is quite vast, and we are not specifically when I'm researching on this is the topic of my MPhil dissertation too. So basically, I have opted for the diasporic writings of from Afghanistan, and Nadia Hashimi is the author which I have chosen. So basically, what diasporic writings from Afghanistan do is that these writers or their families have left Afghanistan prior to 1980s or prior to the Taliban invasion or maybe the civil wars of Mujahideen. So these families have took their found their resort in countries like America, Australia, France, and some and maybe the remotest parts of world. And these writers are basically concerned about the horrors of forced displacement, how they had to flee. So basically this fear is constantly present in their writing. So one specific aspect about Nadia Hashimi that I really find interesting is that Nadia Hashimi is an author who has not really experienced in her lifetime this forced displacement. Her father and her mother were they actually left Afghanistan. Not they were not forced to they were not actually expatriated. So basically she writes from she has visited Afghanistan much later in the during the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, or the post 9/11 when America invaded Afghanistan, and her writings are basically shaped from her concept or her impression of Afghanistan as she visited it much later in 2003. So basically, we find that this is a very recent writings. Like the first of our novels came out, and I have shown it like here. I have shown it that she has authored 6 novels till then, and we find that works like The Pearl That Broke Its Shell. Here I have shown it that the pearl that broke its shell, when the moon is low, one half from the east, a house without windows, the sky at her feet, and sparks like stars. She's quite a prolific author, and she is still publishing her works. Maybe more come up and more can come up, and we find that gender is a dominating concern. I have I have also told it earlier during presentation of the slides that she works in Afghanistan. She is involved in the social service. So mostly she is aware about the gender issues, and also she is aware about children because she is a pediatrician, and the women issues that she portrays is this awareness about the gender issues comes from her impression of Afghanistan as she visited it back in 2003. And that's something I have referred to, that what makes her works different from those of Khaled Hosseini, or Atik Rahimi, who have written about Afghanistan much earlier. We have the books like The Kite Runner, which came as early as in 2003. And you see that The Pearl That Broke Its Shell came out in 2014. So what is the difference? And that's why I have quoted this line from Feminist Criticism in Wilderness, which is by Ellen Showalter, that what is the difference of the women's writing, that how she portrays gender, how she sees things there. And this is what is special about, I think this is what is unique about this presentation, that how Nadia Hashim as a woman sees the condition in Afghanistan and how these things are being represented in her writings, how gender becomes vital in her representation of Afghanistan. So yeah, this is a slide about her where I have given her personal information or the bio, that she was born in New York and New Jersey, and then she did her graduation from Brandeis University. Then she had her residency training at NYU, and she's a pediatric and she works as a pediatrician basically. So she apart from this her career as a doctor, she now is a prolific author, to say. She enjoys an international readership because her works are, she writes in English obviously, but her works are being translated into English, and in almost 17 languages, and that's how she's connected to the world, almost entire world, because the 17, like these are major languages when it comes to the translation. So this is what I have discussed in the earlier slides. I hope after that it was visible. So these are the books that I have referred to here: The Pearl That Broke Its Shell and When the Moon Is Low. And then this was the concept of gender that I referred to, and this the meaning of gender as how Oxford Dictionary defines it, that it's basically a social construction, not a biological one, and how that gender is a system which attaches meanings to the biological difference. And so yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for that engrossing presentation, Apurna. Particularly, I liked the level of connection you had, your perceptivity, the tendency to look at Hashmi's novels from different critical angles, even though you focused mainly on a feminist reading. So thank you so much for that. Let me just open the floor for questions right now. If there is any question, would you please raise your hand and just turn your microphone on and ask the question. You can also write the question in the chat box so that we can ask our presenter what you want to know, or you can even make comments and observations. Okay, Aparna, looks like there is no question or comment here. Let me just ask this question to you, because I'm personally interested in knowing this. So, I mean, if you have noticed, there is this very strong tendency these days among Afghan authors to write novels where they will represent gender in a problematic way, in terms of, I mean, quote unquote problematic way, in terms of heterosexual norms, right? So I mean, there is the queer kind of thing, and Rafiq, let me just there are other people whose works have been looked at from the same kind of critical angles, the angles of homosexuality and all of those things. If you think about I mean, Niamat Sadat, Nuances of the Closet, there is a title of a paper that was supposed to be read here. And then you have seen that there is another title in the same panel, I mean, in the same session with us here, Female Masculinity and Tomboyism. Then there was one, Contriteness, and I mean, so all of those things, you see that there is a very strong queer angle somewhere. So what do you think about this? Why is this recurring in these novels? And also, let me just put it here, which is, do you think that these kind of something beyond heteronormativity, something that leans towards, say, homosexuality? So is that a part of Afghan culture, or is there a place in Afghan culture of that kind of problematizing gender or problematic genders, quote unquote? Uh, so what do you think? Say there are practices like Bacha Posh, which is also basically something like that. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you. But one thing that I would like to share is that I have basically concerned myself with the reading of Nadia Hashimi, and you will see that the issues that you are talking about are very much present in some of the other novels. I too have read the other abstracts which are to be presented today, and I have found that there are very interesting issues like other than heterosexuality, that homosexuality and all. But when it comes to Nadia Hashimi, you will find that the issues regarding gender are basically limited to the heterosexuality. There are not much of homosexuality that you will find. Even homosexual representations are very much there in Khaled Hosseini, but not in Nadia Hashimi. Specifically, the novels that all is. In fact, I have read all her novels that are published till now. But this is not as much relevant when it comes to Nadia Hashimi. But yes, the system of Bachaposh, that is a cultural practice. I feel that she has presented it apart from her consciousness, because this is a kind of a regressive act, because this is something that recognizes the superiority of a male child in a society and not as much accepts girl child, because they are not allowing a girl to move outside, like to play, or even if they are not even allowed to go to school. Even when a bachaposh is around them, then they are escorted by the bachaposh, but not the girls are not allowed to move free. So basically this is something, in fact bachaposh is a recurring thing, and I am saying that because I have already referred to two of our novels. One I have discussed here, The Pearl That Broke Its Shell, and another is the prequel of the novel, One Half from the East, which came out later in 2016. There is also this issue of bachaposh, along with the psychological dimensions in a children, what he or she undergoes, basically, she undergoes when she is made a bachaposh. But I will agree that yes, there are other turns too. Heterosexuality is very much there in the society, but yes, there is one thing that when it comes to Afghanistan, you will find that the heteropatriarchy is something which is very much there. You'll find that the men are given all the importance when it comes to Afghan society. And part of it, yes, I will admit that one problem is there with Nadia Hashimi that you will not find in many other Afghan writers, is that she suffers, her writing suffers from a lack of like a serious I mean, what should I say, that she has written her novels. The novel is obviously set in Afghanistan, but they are written in America. So finally the kind of like, what should I say, alienation, like she wasn't born, she haven't seen the things there. So there is an obviously an Western outlook. So that is what important about the representation of the heteropatriarchy in Afghanistan. So I agree with you, there are the references of homosexuality in many other novels, but not in Nadia Hashimi. And this much I can say, because I haven't read that much. Only I have read And the Mountains Echoed by Khaled Hosseini, and also all the three novels by Khaled Hosseini actually, and the homosexual concerns are based very much there in the Kite Runner and the Mountain Secret. But in Nadia Hashimi, this question is not as much applicable, at least till now, the novels that she has written. So yeah, that's it.
Sorry again. Actually, we are actually lucky, especially me, to have you, because you have spoken so knowledgeably about, the new literature coming out of Afghanistan and Afghan origin authors from around the world. But let me ask you just one other. There is one question here. Let's take that question, and if there is time, we will ask you my question. What's your opinion about this? Is asked by Shafak Muzaffar. What's your opinion about Nadia Hashmi's treatment of Afghanistan and US invasion? So, how does she treat the US invasion, and what is your opinion on that?
Well, I thank you for the question, because this is what I was talking about, that the Western outlook, that is something problematic about Nadia Hashimi. Because if you read the novels about Atiq Rahimi, they are basically the replete with what is the called? There's a connection of the soil you will find in Atiq Rahimi. If you read the novels like Earth and Ashes or maybe The Patient Stone, the reference of the wars are more real in them. But yes, references are there about the American invasion, but this is something which is like vague. You are not really informed about it, but you will find that the wars are going on and people are basically onlookers. They're not the comments are made because the war is on, and this the America that is being doing. This is the reference of America, and the spelling is not America. It's very much America, and this reference is there in the first section of the novel. But this is not there in the novels that I have been talking about. This is the political references that I am being talking about are really vague. When it comes to Nadia Hashimi, you'll find that the references there just as a background, and this is the question that he has asked. This political rife between the American invasion in Afghanistan, you'll see that it is only the Taliban regime that is being talked of, the oppression is there, but it is not as much as we find in A Thousand Splendid Suns. If you go through the novels, you'll find that how things are there, how people are coping with that challenges that a war or a foreign invasion, the unrest that is created by that. But this is not as much there in Nadia Hashimi. Rather, the representation is more like a like you'll find the personal information more. I'm being reminded of the creature feminine here. Well, this is what characteristic, probably the metaphors that are being used. This is something which is very much personal. She is like brooding on issues which are more like about the women, and not the political issues are there, but that's in the background. Even I will say that the political references are like there. You'll find it when the moon is low. You will see that there is a timeline which is like this is going on. It's in the background, like Soviet invasion. My child is born. He is 4 years old, and this is happening. I am not allowed to go to school. This is happening, and I am barred from doing that. So this is the personal side. What I'm trying to emphasize.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aparna Brahmachari. I actually was disappointed a bit because other presenters did not show up, but the way on Aparna has presented, and especially the interaction that we had after that, we got to hear from Aparna a lot more than we were supposed to be lucky to, right? So thank you so much, everyone. The audience listened to us in rapt attention. And Aparna, I would like to thank you so much for presenting your paper. And I just wanted to mention here that we would be going for a post-conference volume from someone big, a good publisher. So we would contact you later on, and we would perhaps have your contribution as well. Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. We are going to formally conclude the session here right now. Thanks.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Shamapti.
Sir. Yes, sir. I have also my paper, sir.
But you haven't, why didn't you respond when I was looking for you? I was writing about you. I wrote about you, I mean, wrote about
Okay,
other
sir. I was
presenters
a
quite
little
a
bit
few
late then.
times. You should have told me. I asked, I mean, we were saying that there is no other presenter. Did you
Yes,
just,
I thought you should complete, then I should say.
oh
Okay.
my dear. Okay. Okay, so let's have your paper, then we have a plenary right now, actually, but let's have your paper. Since you have come, it would not be really fair to let you go without letting you present. Just a note here that our plenary by Dr. Claire Chambers, of Professor of Global Literature at the of York, is starting her presentation in, say, 10 minutes. So we will listen to Shamapti Saha till then. Shamapti, would you please very fast do this?
Okay, sir. Okay,
Yeah,
sir. I'm trying to be very brief.
yeah,
So the
please.
title of my paper is Contriteness and Conjugality, a critique of Susmita Banerjee's noises in Talibanized Afghanistan. Recently, Taliban gained power over Afghanistan after 2 decades. It took everyone around the globe with shock, fear, and terror for their ways of human rights infringement. The aim of the study is to explore the inner ferment of a married woman. There is lack of research on a woman's condition in the context of international, intercultural, and religious love marriage. Overall analysis shows that intercultural love marriage, forced religious conversion, Talibani fatwas, and sexist ideas of the Kabuliwalas made a woman's conjugality a repentant one. To test the hypothesis, I have selected 2 writings of Sushmita Banerjee, as it will give a neutral perspective of Afghan culture, both as an insider and outsider. In Afghanistan, women are deprived to interfere in their own lives. Women's condition was much better during King Amanullah, Jahir Shah, and Muhammad Tariq's rule. Earlier, women were politically and economically active gender of the country. Arab domination with feudalism and patriarchy changed the condition of women in country. Talibani rule from 1996 to 2001 further influenced women's employment, health, and education. In this deprived land, after marriage, Shushmita made her entry in 1988. She realized that there is entry but not escape from the country. She has to face the political turmoils and repercussions of being foreign, Bengali, Hindu women belonging from different culture. She was named there Sahib Kamal, thereby started her identity loss, which according to her means Sahib Kamal. Later, she compares her restricted Afghan life and free Kolkata life. That creates repentance in her. She misses the free movement. She became like Maya Angelou's caged bird. Her monotony is well reflected in the lines. সেই একঘেয়ে জীবন, কোনো বৈচিত্র্য নেই এখানকার দৈনন্দিন জীবনধারায়. In the beginning, she is in love state when lovers rise above the moral codes of life. I want to quote Johnson, a famous psychologist, saying about in love. He writes, when one falls in love, he has touched a superhuman level of experience and is instantly wafted away in a godlike realm where human values are superseded. So this was Susmita's case. She succumbed to in love state and thus she leaves her parents, goes against them, and marries Jambaj, her husband's name. Jambaj, after 2 years, 7 months, leaves her in Afghanistan and comes back to India. At that time, her in-love state shatters. Reality strikes her. She cries out, সমস্ত ভালোবাসা মিথ্যে, তবে কেন করলাম বিয়ে? আর বিয়ে করলামই যখন, তখন নিজের দেশের ছেলেকে কেন করলাম না? Her noesis made her repent. This is the result of death of expectations, which can happen in any marriage globally. But her state is different for being engaged in intercultural, religious, and beyond the country love marriage. Her self-questioning first made her blame her friend Ruma, who introduced her with Jambaj. But later she realizes it is her love for him that made her marry Jambaj. Actually, in Indian setup, a girl child is socialized with the idea of marriage. Shushmita unconsciously surrounded all her wishes, expectations in relation to her husband. So when reality strikes her, she says, "Amar keu nei, ami ek hariye jawa nari." Every girl feels lost in such veriloid marriage system. Marriage is death of old self and beginning of new life for every girl. However, in case of other girls, they had parents to attach to. But Susmita detached herself with parents to be with her husband. Moreover, there is no possible communication across the two countries, and she was deprived of any news. She also repented for not knowing each other before marriage. Moreover, human nature is very complex. It disables us from knowing a person even if you are in living with them throughout lifetime. So Afghanistan becomes the prison house and she is the prisoner. However, Susmita is a strong lady with active animus and knows well to tackle housewife syndrome in an alien place.
Samapti,
Yes, sir.
I'm very sorry. You have to finish within 2 minutes as the plenary session has already started.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah, please finish within 2 minutes.
Okay,
Wrap it
sir.
up.
I'm just summing it up. So repentance did not cause. So she has a. She also comes to know that her husband is earlier married. He has a first wife, and she repented that she trusted him fully. But her repentance did not cause her separation, as it would bring bad name to her. And finally she continues to love him. And as I have very short time, I'm just concluding it as so as long as Taliban exist in the history of Afghanistan, Banerjee's name will still exist. The study will help to realize that love is in people, love is not in marriage, love is fantasy, marriage is reality. Women should learn marriage is just a part of life. Instead of Prince Charming appearance, one should opt for feminist husbands. So I just missed out on all the important parts of my paper.
Yeah.
Just to conclude it up. You okay?
I don't know how this has happened. I actually called you guys a couple of times, wrote in the chat box whether you are there or not. I'm regretting this a lot because I actually liked what we were saying. I thought the things that you were saying were really critically important. But we got no time for that right now. Let's go
Okay.
back to our main room where we are having the plenary address by Professor Claire Chambers. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir.